Hey everybody, Matt Jones, glad to be with you today. I'm going to ask you to do something that sounds kind of weird. I want you to look at your thumbnail. For just a second, take a look at your thumbnail. You've probably never been asked to do that before, but if you'll do that, I want you to think about this for a second. How would you describe your thumbnail to someone who can't see your thumbnail? Now, I want you to take a second and to put your hand over your heart, and I want you to feel your heartbeat. How would you describe that to someone who can't feel that? What words would you use? What would you do to help them understand the uniqueness of what you're feeling and experiencing? Do you have any aches and pains? How would you do that? How would you describe those aches and pains to somebody? Maybe you have a scar on your body where something happened to you. How would you describe what happened to you and how you ended up with that scar? You see, in all those cases, I want to make a particular point. You know this, but you're not your thumbnail. You're not your heartbeat. You're not your aches and pains. You're not even your scars. See, you are simply observing all of those things and then you're describing them to someone else. Now, the reason that I say this is because the same thing is true with your thoughts. You are not your thoughts. You have thoughts. You can observe your thoughts, just like you can observe a thumbnail or a heartbeat or a scar or an ache and a pain. You can observe this, so you can observe your thoughts. Now, part of what's going on, and the reason we get confused about that, is that we hear these thoughts in our brain all the time, and we assume that that is us, that we are telling ourselves these things. But in reality, there's way more stuff going on in your brain all the time than you're even aware of. Imagine it like this. If you went to a computer and you were to type in a keyword, let's say starting a business, into Google, you would get a ton of results. Some of those would be helpful, some of those would not be helpful. You would disregard the things that aren't helpful, you would click on the links that looked helpful, and then you would evaluate past that whether or not that truly was helpful. Your brain is doing the same thing at all times. While you're sitting here right now watching this and listening to this, your brain is processing all the noises in the background, the temperature of the room, what the chair feels like that you're sitting in, or how your feet feel where you're standing right now. There's all kinds of stuff your brain's processing. It's filtering out most of the things that it thinks are not that important for you to be aware of. However, it brings to your mind the things that it thinks you should be aware of. And so you may be sitting in a position that's uncomfortable and creating pain. And so eventually, even though your position hasn't changed, that pain, you become aware of that pain. You become aware of that stiffness. So it brings that. So you have to evaluate the value of the thoughts that you have. Now, a lot of people get caught up in the whole thing about positive thinking, and they believe if it's a positive thought, it's an encouraging thought, then I'll focus on those things and I'll ignore the negative thoughts. But that's not actually true because, again, imagine this. You're driving your car, you come up to a flooded road. A positive thought would be, I can make this, I can do anything, I believe in myself, I believe in my abilities. However, that could be a very foolish thing to do. A negative thought would be, that's dangerous, you don't need to do that, and that would be the thought that you need to listen to. So just because something is positive or negative doesn't mean you need to grab onto it specifically because of that framework. However, what you do want to ask yourself as you're evaluating thoughts is this a thought that is helpful for me to, one, achieve my goals, and number two, is it aligned with my values? Does it help me to achieve my goals? And is it aligned with my values? And if that thought does help you to get towards your goals and does align with your values, then those are the thoughts that you want to grab onto and that you want to hold on to and that you want to allow to take more residence within you and become very real for you and help to guide and direct you. I'm Matt Jones, and I hope this helps.